Hello, dear friends with Unaya. I've noticed for a long time that dragons are your favorite topic. And most of all, you like to argue about what is a dragon and what is not. For example, according to many sofa experts under the dragon, the fiery ice lizards form the most popular fashion for mythical creatures ice and flame today are not dragons. Because they are, you see, incorrect. Flying Move Toothless probably would have choked on fish on these words of mine if he had heard. Well, my friends, today I will add fuel to the fire of this discussion. And how do you like such dragons? Are you surprised? Or is it still not very? When you watch this video to the end, be sure to share your thoughts in the comments below. And let's discuss what still has the right to be called a dragon. Well, the mod that I'm going to show you today was created by the same developers that created Jagang Mounts 2. The mod is called the Mouth, in other words, the snake's lair, or, speaking in the vernacular, the Gadyushnik, and it is suitable for the version of the lane 1.14.4 and 1.15.2, and in the future it is going to be transferred to the 16th version of the main. Dragons in fashion are divided into categories: small, ordinary, higher, and behemoths, not in the sense of animal behemoths, but in the sense of mega-huge creatures. Well, like in the Bible or something. Depending on which category the dragon belongs to, you will receive meat of the appropriate type after killing it. At the moment, there are no behemoth-class dragons in the game yet, so you can get this meat only from creativity. All this meat can be fried, and it satisfies hunger to varying degrees. It is also used to tame some types of dragons. Well, now let's look at all kinds of dragons that are in fashion today. This hybrid of woodlouse and dragon is called rust stalker. If you literally translate its name into Russian, then it could sound like, for example, a nest stalker, a nest proselyga, or something like that. This dragon belongs to the category of small ones. In general, this creature is a reference to the ice and flame fashion. Why? Yes, you just look at the head of this pimple. Does it remind you of anything? The color of stalker's skin, as a rule, is like this brown, but occasionally there are albinos among them. Stalkers are found in almost all biomes, in groups of 5 to 25 individuals. They can be easily identified by their characteristic clicking sounds. At night, the scoundrels sleep. Stalker growth are conditionally neutral mobs. That is, they are neutral, and can even be said to be timid, but exactly as long as you do not attack them. At home, they are not great, however. When you attack one, the others will quickly come to the aid of a fellow. So, piece by piece, little by little, you may well be caught. How else can these small parasites pose a danger? They are called stalkers or scoundrels for a reason. If you are planning to arrange a small transshipment point for yourself, without bothering to isolate yourself from the outside world, then be vigilant. Keep an eye on your chests, because they attract these little assholes. Rust stalkers will steal everything they find in your chests, pull it apart, and remember your name. After killing the nest prowler, the meat of a small dragon and a drop of gold fall out of it. Well, actually they look pretty cute, and I wouldn't be surprised if someone wants to get such an animal as a pet. Well, this is quite feasible, but to tame you will need the eggs of other dragons from the mod. At least that's what they write on the developer's wiki. I don't know if this is a tank or if it was intended, but in fact, I was able to tame it with ordinary chicken eggs. But turtle eggs didn't fit. Once the stalker is tamed, he will follow you everywhere. If you want him not to flicker under your feet, right-click on him with an empty hand, and he will climb on your head. In total, you can put 3 stalkers on yourself, but those on your shoulders will block your view from the side. It's easy to remove them from yourself. Just press the squat key. If you want them to stay at home, then right-click on them with an empty hand in a squat. They will spread out, stretch their legs to the sides, and will not go anywhere else. In addition to the decorative function of nest stalkers, it can be used as an additional self-transporting inventory slot. If you click on a stalker with the right mouse button while holding an object, then he will take this object in his teeth. It can be anything, or rather even a whole stack of anything. Well, if you give them a shocker box in their teeth, then accordingly you will have a shocker box running after you. By the way, you can take an object from a stalker in the same way as you gave it to him, with an empty hand, with the right mouse button without squatting. If there is something in your hand at this moment, then you will change the object in your hand for the object that the stalker held in his teeth. If the stalker goes to bed, then the object that he held in his teeth, he puts after his muzzle. But do not be afraid, he will not lose it, and this object will not be despawnated. Despite the small size, weak health of the nest prowler, he will fight for you if you are attacked, or if you attack someone. Strong mobs will quickly deal with your pet, but if there is a whole pack of them, and you give them a weapon in their teeth, then the situation will radically change. Weapons in the teeth of stalkers increase the damage inflicted by them. If you need to treat your pets, then any meat, including vanilla or dragon eggs, is suitable for this. But chicken eggs won't do. Fish and rotten ones are also not suitable for this purpose. Breeding nest broods is quite simple. First of all, they are all same-sex, so you do not need to look for where there is a male, where there is a female. Just take the first two who turn up at hand, and you need to give each of them a piece of gold to eat. All of them will cuddle with each other, and an egg will fall out of someone. You need to take this egg and put it somewhere where you are comfortable with the right mouse button. It should lie down for 5 minutes. If for some reason you need to pick up an egg, you can do this by knocking it down, as objects are usually knocked down. With the left mouse button, it will fall out, and the incubation time will be suspended. When you put the egg out again, time will go again. This mechanic is true for absolutely all dragon eggs in this mod. After the end of the incubation period, a small fat baby will be born. It will not be immediately tame. It must first be fed with eggs. By the way, absolutely all baby dragons hatch not tamed, which is actually good, because it simplifies the transfer of a pet to another player. The baby proselyte can also sit on you, hold objects, and even fight. Of course, he's weaker than an adult. A small desert snake, or, speaking in the vernacular, a booger. It's such a little yellow thing. It doesn't even belong to the category of small dragons, so it can be called super small. It spawns in deserts and clay biomes. It's almost imperceptible. She buries herself in the sand, leaves only her head outside, and opens her mouth. That is, she waits for the food to come into her mouth by itself. But you have nothing to fear. She won't bite you and won't do anything bad at all. The booger is dangerous exclusively for creatures of the size of a wolf and smaller. Well, you can dig it out of the sand, and when you see the whole body, right-click on it, and it will be in your hands. It will even twitch. In the same way, you can let her go. She immediately runs away or buries herself. In general, if you need to catch more boogers, then you cannot dig, but just make a fishing rod and pull them with a fishing rod. When you pull out a booger with a fishing rod, it jumps up, and then it runs away. By the way, it looks pretty funny. After death, he drops off the meat of a small desert snake. There are not so many applications for boogers. It will not work to tame and multiply them. They can be fried dead or alive and eat this meat. Not that it was very satisfying, but on the other hand, we're in the desert, right? And perhaps you can also make some kind of mechanism for slaughtering chickens or rabbits. In the future, it is planned to use boogers to feed larger predator dragons. Canary wyvern, a very cute, small, but aggressive flying dragon. They belong to the category of small dragons. Such creatures live in swamps and come in very beautiful colors. The spots on the wings match the color of the horns on the head. They have sexual dimorphism, that is, boys differ from girls in appearance. Boys have brighter spots and longer and slightly twisted horns. In girls, the horns are shorter and the spots on the wings are darker than the wings themselves, and there are usually white stripes on the tails. Canary wyverns have spikes on their tails, and in case of danger, they can stick these spikes into opponents. The thorns are poisonous, so they impose a poisoning effect. After death, the flesh of a small dragon and feathers fall out of them. Canary wyverns are tamed with sweet berries. They can be placed on your shoulders and head. If you want to breed these little wyverns, then you need individuals of both sexes. To reproduce, they need to be fed with sweet berries. As a result, you will get an egg that will incubate for 5 minutes. Please note that wyvern eggs have special incubation conditions. They must be placed on the foliage of tropical trees, otherwise the cub will not hatch. Of the useful properties of the wyvern canary, she will fight for you, even though she is a little healthy. But a flock of poisonous flying minnows is quite capable of posing a serious threat to your opponents. They are also filled with sweet berries, and in general, it seems that sweet berries are the only thing that canary wyverns perceive as food, and they periodically induce a marathon, as a result of which feathers fall out of them. So with the help of these miles, you can easily set up a vegan feather farm. In other words, it is no longer necessary to kill poor chickens, and indeed anyone else for feathers. Canary wyverns have a little trick. If you call any of them a ruddy name tag, then its texture will become like this light beige. And if you call a female, notice exactly the female Lady Evelyn Winkelstein, then she will become like this yellow with green and orange. Silver glider, aka silver glider or silver flying bird. It belongs to the category of small dragons. This is a very beautiful kind of dragon that spawns along the coasts. Silvery flying birds are exceptionally passive and will not attack you under any circumstances. These are quite common dragons, and their appearance is somewhat similar to seagulls or albatrosses. Their color is silver gray with bright blue eyes. Males have bright scales along the flank and along the edges of the wings, and a colored tail with bright spots of orange, blue or green. These specks glow especially brightly in the dark. It is extremely rare that you may come across a golden glider with pink eyes. Golden particles emanate from it. And in December, between the 14th and the 26th, you can see silver gliders with a Christmas color. Gliders make quite pleasant sounds, something between a purr and a chirp. However, when there are a lot of them, they can drive even fans of the most infernal and trash music crazy, because these sounds are quite high, so you will have a real cacophony in your ears. If you are sick of it, then you can go to the settings and remove the sounds for peaceful creatures, or make them quieter. At night, and in a thunderstorm, silvery flying birds sleep curled up in a ball, and will not bother you with any sounds. If the gliders are scared off, they will take off and circle in the sky for a long time before landing on the ground again. There is no point in killing them, because nothing interesting falls from them, except for a little meat, but it's worth taming such a cute flyer. To do this, you will need a fish cod, salmon or tropical. Blowfish or fish firm mods are not suitable. The mechanics are similar to the old method of taming ocelots. You need to hold the fish in your hand, and carefully, without making sudden movements, sneak up and feed him a fish. Fish usually do not need a lot. A few pieces are enough. When the glider is tamed, it will follow you, sometimes on the ground, sometimes taking off. If you get too far away, he's a pawn, like a dog or a cat. To make it stay in place, right-click on it in the squat. He will lie down and wrap his tail in a bagel. Well, if you right-click without squatting, then put it on your head. In general, you can put up to 3 pieces on yourself. To take them off, just sit down. Flying on gliders, as we did on the same amphipters from the Ice and Flame fashion, will not work. They can't protect you from hostile mobs either, because they are very weak. However, they are not useless. Gliders are good, because they can be used as a hang glider. Flying on them is similar to flying on elytra, only unlike flying on elytra. In order for the flight to continue, you need to hold the jump button. So by taming the glider, you can say that you get elytra at the very beginning of the game, and almost for free, just for a fish. Silvery flying birds can be propagated. To do this, of course, you will need individuals of both sexes. They need to be raised, that is, put in a mode when they can wander. It is advisable to tie them to a fence so that they do not fly apart, and feed them with fish. They will be covered with hearts and lay an egg, which will be incubated for 10 minutes of real time. At this time, golden particles will emanate from him. Right before hatching, you will hear a crunch, and soon a small silver glider will be born. It won't be tame right away, so if you don't want to lose it, it's better to feed the fish right away. It is also possible to accelerate the growth of a small glider by feeding it fish, but this should be done in a squat. By the way, are the cravings also filled with fish? Ground drake. This lizard is much larger than all the previous ones. It belongs to the category of ordinary dragons. It is not flying. It is often found, inhabits plains and savannas, and is herbivorous. Drakes graze and strip blocks of grass like sheep. Land drakes have differences in appearance between males and females, although at first glance it is almost imperceptible. Males have slightly brighter spots and horns slightly longer. In females, the crumbs are shorter, and the colors do not stand out in any special way. The colors of the savanna and plain drake are somewhat different. Also among the drakes, there is a rare albino variety. The ground drake is a fast, strong, and aggressive dragon, so if there is no desire to fight with him, then it is better not to approach him. With his roar, he is able to slow down. He butts great, thereby throwing the opponent far away. Upon death, drake drops the meat of an ordinary dragon, skin and scales. To tame it, you will have to go around it. To do this, you need to quickly run up to the drake with a saddle in your hand and right-click on it. The saddle will be on drake, and you will only have to jump in and endure until drake stops throwing you off. And you will have to throw it off much more harshly than horses do. Feeding wild drakes to facilitate the detour will not work, but when drake goes around, you will have a pretty good ground mount. He is fast enough and has good health, and it is possible to force water obstacles on horseback. You can also put armor on drake and hang a chest. Thus, your mount will also be an additional inventory. I would not say that he is faster than any horse, as many claim. In addition, he absolutely does not jump, but he can butt. In order to hit an opponent with drake's horns, you need to get close enough to him, outline, and press the dragon attacks key. By default, they are like this, so we press this lower one. Not that drake kills with one hit, but he throws great. Well, at this time you can, for example, finish off with a bow. If the enemy hits you while you are riding a drake, the damage to you will pass, so don't expect to cover yourself with his carcass while sitting astride. The drakes that follow you will fight for you. If they fall behind, then you will easily wake up like dogs. Having a herd of drakes behind you is a very good idea if you are going to fight a lot. Drakes can be multiplied. As you understand, you need drakes of both sexes. The developer writes that this requires blocks of hay or wheat. For some reason, the hay blocks didn't work for me, but the wheat is in perfect order. By the way, you will also be able to pole your wounded if necessary. The mated drakes will give you an egg that will incubate for 15 minutes. After that, a small drachik without horns will be born, which is considered wild, but it won't attack you until it grows up. Well, so that he does not grow up wild, it is better to feed him with scum while he is still small. You can put a saddle on the baby, but only with a dragon staff, but it won't work to ride it. We'll talk about the staff separately later. Pitahaya dragon, aka Pitahaya dragon. Pitahaya is such a plant. It is also called dragon fruit. I didn't call the dragon of dragons a fruit dragon. So let's stop perhaps on a more or less adequate name, the Pitahaya dragon. It is called so because of its coloring. Whoever has seen the dragon fruit Pitahaya, he will not confuse it with anything. This dragon belongs to the category of ordinary. It spawns in the jungle, and, just like the alien drake, is a herbivore. He guards his territory very jealously, so he can be aggressive. Females differ from males with a white belly. Males have a purple tummy. The sounds that these animals make are somewhat reminiscent of the lowing of a cow. Despite the fact that Pitae belong to the category of ordinary, after death, they drop the meat of small dragons for some reason. Honestly, I think it's a tank. It is clear that there are many who want to get themselves such a milla. However, the pink dragon is not tamed, but, as they say, if you can't, but really want to, then you can. In order to still get yourself a Pitae dragon, you will have to tame his green little cub. To do this, it is best to catch the moment when the dragons go to bed. It means at night. But actually, in fact, they are quite lazy and sometimes fall asleep even during the day. Well, you and I need to get close to the kid and feed him sweet berries or wheat. It is impossible to determine the sex of a cub until it fully grows up. On feeding in their dragons, as well as on drakes, you can ride and swim. He can't put a saddle on him, he can't carry a chest, and he's not as powerful and fast. He doesn't know how to butt, but he can bite, and you can also cut it and get apples. It is written on the century that Pitae dragons can destroy blocks of grass, flowers, and sunflowers, so that they can be kept in theory to clear territories of weeds, but I couldn't pull off this number. Perhaps this function is still being finalized. To breed Pitae dragons, you need to take a male and a female, and, in theory, feed them with sweet berries or wheat. At least that's what the developers say. But apparently this information is outdated, because they have agreed to breed exclusively for apples. By the way, Pitae dragons are filled with almost any vegetables or fruits, including even beets and potatoes. And it is also possible to accelerate the growth of small dragons for sure. The egg is incubated for 8 minutes. The butterfly leviathan is the biggest dragon that is in fashion today. This is a water snake with splayed fins, because of which, apparently, it got its name. He belongs to the category of higher dragons. It lives in the oceans, but is able to crawl out onto land without harm to itself. It happens to be blue with a beige tummy, and purple eyes, and lilac with green eyes. And there is also an extremely rare albino variant. Their color is just a color. It's not related to gender. By the way, leviathans have no sexes in principle. Butterfly leviathans are strong, aggressive, and very fast in the water. In theory, after killing leviathan, the meat of the supreme dragon should fall, but for some reason only experience falls. I think this case will be fixed sooner or later. The method of taming leviathans is quite complicated. You need to attract their attention and lure them to land. When they are on land, you need to feed them dried kelp or dragon meat. As soon as the leviathan is tamed, it will be covered with hearts, and you will immediately find yourself riding on land. Sea snakes are extremely slow, and they climb on land with great reluctance, except for the sake of the owner, and then only if you need to fight, and they don't stop. But in the water, it is difficult for them to find equals. They swim perfectly, at least faster than you, and maybe even faster than boats. And in order to really enjoy riding these dragons, you may need all sorts of underwater breathing potions, or cups for armor of the same property. In addition, you can put a sea guide in your leviathan's inventory, and it will impose a sea power effect on you. When the guide is placed to the leviathan, the guide symbol will appear above the beast's head. Lightning will strike it and shining blue stripes, and the same shining blue patterns on the head and tail will appear along its entire side, back, and fins. The spectacle is fucking spectacular. To strike enemies with lightning, you need to catch the target in the crosshair of the cursor and press the key, on which you have an alternative mount attack assigned. By default, this is the English G. This way you can mine charged creepers. But there is one but. Lightning strikes only when interacting with water, so creepers will have to either lure water to recharge or wait for rain. The usual mount attack is a bite by default. This is an English AVI, and with the help of this attack, you, having somewhat adjusted, will be able to farm fish well. For example, attacking fish shoals. Independently, the leviathan will bite those whom you attacked or those who attacked you, but you must be close enough to your pet that he perceives the action to attack. In theory, leviathans can jump, and at the moment, this is the only dragon in the game that can jump. But this is a very tricky process. To do this, you need to take the leviathan to the depth, point the cursor crosshair up, and hold the forward movement key. But this is a theory, but in practice I suffered for a long time. But nothing came of it. You can treat wounded leviathans with any dragon meat from the mod. Kelp also slightly heals, but not completely. Leviathans can be multiplied. To do this, you need to take them to dry land and feed them dried kelp. Maybe it can be done in water, but I didn't succeed. But the land is a sure thing for 100%. In general, as a result, you will get an egg, the incubation time of which is 33 minutes. That is, of all the creatures available in the game at the moment, leviathans are the longest in the process of hatching. The egg should be placed in an aqueous medium. And of course, after hatching, the cub needs to be tamed. Do not miss the moment of its hatching, otherwise it will be too hard to chase it in the water. But if you missed it, don't be afraid to approach him. He won't bite you yet. Put him on a leash and pull him to dry land. Like an adult leviathan, a cub needs to be tamed on land. You won't be able to ride it, but you can give him a guide. You can stimulate growth with dragon meat. In addition to dragons, the mod adds a new metal platinum and new gems giada. Platinum is found in the ordinary world and is an intermediate material between iron and diamonds in terms of strength and strength. That is, if you need to save diamonds, or they are not available, you can use platinum tools. Platinum pickaxe is capable of extracting obsidian. Platinum ore is deposited somewhere at the 40th level and below, and is generated in blocks from 1 to 8 pieces. It can also be found in treasures. There are 3 types of bellies: blue, red, and purple. Of these, the blue one is found in the ordinary world, most often somewhere near fame, at a level somewhere like diamonds. Often there are clusters of 1 to 5 near the thigh. A pickaxe enchanted for good luck acts on them, and you can get it with an iron pickaxe. You can find red water in the cave, but you will have to go to enter for purple water. But for the extraction of red, you need blue, and for the extraction of purple red, because even with a diamond pick, these two are not mined. From all these types of belly, you can make weapons, armor, and tools, as well as add decorative blocks. But we'll do that in a little while. And now, I suggest you take a look at the items that will be useful to us in handling our new dragons. First of all, of course, it is a management staff. It is made of red, ghee, and a fiery rod. To influence the dragon with a staff, you need to go up to it and click on it with the left mouse button. In other words, hit the chosen dragon with a staff. There will be no impact, but the dragon will be highlighted in blue. Now right-click while holding the staff in your hand, not necessarily on the dragon, and you will get a management menu. Depending on the capabilities of the dragon, this menu will be bigger or smaller. The easiest thing you can do is to set a house point or order the dragon to stay put or follow you. Some dragons, such as, for example, Butterfly in Leviathan or Rust Stalker, have inventory slots. With the help of the staff, you can open their inventory and pick up or put the necessary items. Let's look at this case using the example of Drake. Let's tie him to the staff, open the inventory, and see that he has 3 slots. The slots are not signed, but there is a saddle in the topmost one. In the world, we could only put the saddle on Drake, but we could only take it away after his death. Using the staff, you can pick up the saddle whenever you want. The middle slot is for armor, but you can put a chest in the last one. And when you do, Drake's inventory will expand by a whole chest. Another good device, and this is the Soul Crystal. It is crafted from enders, and 4 blue bellies. This is essentially a transport capsule for your dragon. When you right-click it on the dragon will disappear, and a shining circle will converge and disperse around the place where it was. Very beautiful animation. The dragon will be placed in the crystal, along with all the equipment. You can see the data about it here. It says his name, health level, and who the owner is. You can release the dragon in the same way with the right mouse button. All equipment and inventory contents remain intact. Of the useful things for dragons, there is also armor. They are worn so far only on drakes, but they are made of almost any materials. Iron, gold, diamond, platinum, and giada, blue, red, purple, they all have the same craft. We need blocks and ingots, or blocks and gems that line up in this form. They look relatively good on Drake and give him extra protection. Well, now let's look at the armor, weapons, and tools added by the Gadyushnik mod for players. First of all, it is worth paying attention to the set of Bronca from the Scales of the Ground Drake, crafting this armor based on iron armor. That is, you need to strengthen each part of the iron set with Drake scales, as it were. What does it give? This increases the protective properties of the armor and gives additional strength. Thus, scaly armor is only slightly inferior to diamond armor, and assembled in a full set, such armor will make you insensitive to discarding. In other words, no Drake will be able to kick you like a football all over the savannah anymore. The set doesn't look so mega cool, but in my opinion it's pretty good. In addition to strengthening the armor, nothing more can be done with Drake's scales at the moment. Next, we will look at the platinum scenes. Platinum, in addition to armor, can also be used to make weapons and tools. With crafts, everything is simple here. They are generally classic, so it doesn't make sense to pay special attention to them. In general, platinum armor is better in its characteristics than iron, but worse than diamond. But platinum weapons and tools are just better than diamond ones. So my advice to you, if you choose what to make out of diamonds, make a better armor if you haven't made it out of Drake scales yet, and save the platinum for tools. The platinum armor set looks almost like iron, so there is nothing remarkable in its texture. If there is an excess of platinum bars, you can collect them in a block and store them like that. Well, or use these blocks in construction, because they look pretty good. Then we have G sets, blue, red, and purple. And now this armor is undoubtedly better in its qualities than diamond. Of these, the coolest, of course, is purple. But do not rush to waste water on armor, because it does not occur so often. And you and I remember that the red infernal water, which is steeper than blue, and which is vital for you to fully control the dragons, you can only get with a blue Giada pickaxe and purple red. By the way, Giada tools are also better in their indicators than diamond ones. Crafting all the same ode armor, weapons, tools are classic. The models and textures are also not particularly remarkable. However, the color is good, and with the same ode block, you will most likely also find a worthy use in construction. The mod also adds the crafting of a gem-colored apple. It's better than enchanted gold, but 4 blue bellies are needed to craft it. It gives the player a 3rd level regeneration effect, night vision, glow, resistance, and 3rd level absorption. Of all these effects, absorption lasts the longest 3 minutes. If you are experiencing a creative mod and want to get an egg of some dragon, but you are too lazy to bother with taming, then you can take this creative egg and click it on the desired dragon with the left mouse button. It will turn into a dragon egg of the kind you need. In creative mode, you can turn any dragon's egg into another dragon's egg. It will not work out to get only the egg of a small desert snake, and these really don't reproduce. This is how the Gadyushnik mod looks like today. In the future, the developers plan to add a whole bunch of different dragons, and are also thinking about a separate dimension. I managed to pick up the concepts of some of the creatures. Which of them will actually be added, and who will not, will wait and see. However, I think it will be interesting for you to take a look at them anyway. Remember the little desert serpent. So, since there is a small one, it is already logical to assume that there must be a big one somewhere, and in fact, a picture with a big snake was found. So there is hope that sooner or later it will appear in fashion. And there are also pictures of a variety of dragons, Asian species, similar to snakes, resting on the wings of wyvern-like, with tentacles, aquatic, flying, sandy, toothy, small, large, all sorts of different. I found her a picture with the comparative sizes of all creatures. It looks like the great desert serpent is going to be a mega monster indeed. Well, in my video today, you saw a whole bunch of very different creatures. You can count them as dragons, you cannot count them. As for me, I am of the opinion that only the creator of the creature has the right to classify it. If drakes, snakes, wyverns and others are considered dragons in the view of this particular developer, then who am I to argue with him? Well, what do you think, dear friends? Which of the animals you have seen do you consider to be dragons, and who are not? Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments below the video. See you soon. Bye-bye.